All right, the Pete Souza Show is back. We don't make Mike Mayock wait. We're presented by Slovakics, by the way. And we like to thank Sikora Family Ford, Crawford Austin Properties, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers. I don't have all the logos today because we're on the road. We're at home. We got the Christmas tree. And I think Mike could be not that far away from me. Let's welcome Mike Mayock right now. Mike, I'm on Meadowood and Browning, right in Villanova. How about yourself?
I'm a long way from you, brother. I'm in Georgia right now.
You are?
Yeah, we're down south.
Did you move down there?
We're there some of the year, yeah. And
okay.
We're in a place called St. Simon's Island, and it's a beautiful little bucolic island, and you ride your bike everywhere. And my wife and I will jump on our bikes and ride up to the local, have a couple beers, and get on the bikes and come home. It's pretty cool.
It sounds pretty cool, man. That's probably why you still look so good. It's keeping young out there on the bike.
It's a good, you know what? The people are really nice, and they're in football. You know, it's University of Georgia. There's no such thing as the Atlanta Falcons or the Philadelphia Eagles. It's all about the SEC, and I get a kick out of it.
Well, and you have some experience. You know, I can remember one of your first. You know, you were one of the first CBS SEC crews when it was CBS SEC. You were right calling those games, and that was a part of just that tidal wave, right? That the SEC, when they kind of took over college football and television.
Yeah, I mean, you have a good memory. I remember the first break I really got at a larger level was CBS, and it was either a Big East game of the week or an SEC. And even though I was living in the East, I wanted to do the SEC games. And the first one I did was Florida and Georgia. And I saw an awful lot of Tim Tebow and Peyton Manning. And I kind of grew up in broadcasting with all those guys. And for me, who's the son of a coach and loves ball, the energy that's brought in the SEC. And I say this even though I love Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State, but there's no energy like the people bring in the SEC.
Yeah, it's second to none. It truly is. Yep. Getting into your career a little bit, you know, you're one of those guys, you were evaluated, you did the evaluating, then you hired other guys who evaluated for you. There's not many people walking the planet that have that kind of experience. And I with your career, I want to start there. You know, before there was Bo Jackson and John Elway, there was Mike Mayock at BC. Playing baseball and football, right?
I don't think many people are putting me in the same category there as either a football or baseball player. But one of the things I told colleges when I was being recruited was I want to play both sports. And BC was one of the ones that said you can. And I look back on those times now and ended up playing 3 years of baseball and loved every minute of it. Different group of guys, different pace. To be really honest, football practice, spring practice was going on right next door. I used to just laugh. I could hear my buddies cursing me out from 100 yards away. You know, while I have baseball clothes on and I'm batting third and playing first base. And so there are a lot of really good memories of being able. And I think in our society, we place way too much emphasis on our youth specialized. And I just loved looking forward to basketball, looking forward to baseball. Now it's football. I mean, I thought there was something special about it.
There was. And, you know, I'm not too far behind you. And growing up here in Southeastern Pennsylvania, I went to Archbishop Carroll and played every sport that I could. You know, I was just, you had to kick me off the fields when we changed seasons. And I think that just helped me develop as a guy and also just kind of seeing the whole field. When you finish at BC, you know, NFL, CFL, and kind of to talk about the rest of your career, we got to talk about that. I'm curious what people don't understand today about what it was like playing in pro football in the 80s. You know, like how much it is different from today. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't very good and I didn't last very long with injuries in the NFL. But what's kind of intriguing, Pete, is that a few years ago, my son and I were watching an NFL program. I don't remember what it was.
Your son played Villanova. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was Malvern Prep Villanova.
Yeah.
And a NFL Films type program came on, and it was really interesting because we're just sitting there chatting. We were just kind of paying attention. And then Joe Turkey Jones, or whatever his name was, just hammerlock Terry Bradshaw, picked him up and threw him neck first into the ground. And my son's eyes got big, and he's like, "Dad, there wasn't even a penalty flag. What was that?" And I said, "Mike, it's just a different world." And now we protect our quarterbacks to a level that I find unfathomable. On the other hand, if you ask an owner, they say that the owner of hey, the quarterbacks are what make this league go. And if you don't have a starting quarterback that's legit, you're not going anywhere. We have to take care of them. So I kind of understand both sides of it, but it was kind of the Wild West back then. It was hard to get called for an unsportsmanlike penalty.
Yeah, sometimes it frustrates me too, seeing a lot of the flags, and you want to understand it because it's about player safety, and like you said, about moving the game forward with, quarterbacks are, the gold star for the NFL. But it does frustrate. I love the NFL films, like the Jack Tatum, the Mel Blount, and those hits were just brutal, and that was a really exciting part of the game. And I also think it was part of the strategy of the game. You don't want guys feeling like they can run free over the middle, right? You were safety.
Yeah, and it's still part of the strategy of the game. And the problem is, as a safety or linebacker, it's very difficult. Receiver stretching, the ball could be high, the ball could be low. You've got a launch point where you've got to either make a decision whether you're going for the ball or the receiver, and where on the receiver and the receiver can stretch and move and go up and down. However, your launch point's got to be down here, regardless of how low he is. So I think sometimes defensive players get put in situations that are untenable, but there's nothing you can do. Those are the rules. I think the one that drives me to crazy as a former defensive player are the late slides by the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, if you want protection, get your ass down. Okay. If you want protection from the rules, slide early, identify yourself, I'm out. But the guys that slide late and they get drilled and then complain about it, it drives me up a wall, especially when the ref then throws the flag. And, so there's a lot of those things. I hate it when a defensive lineman is just reaching for a pass. He's trying to bat it down and his hand inadvertently hits the helmet. And I've heard quarterbacks in the offseason giggle and laugh about how they play it up and they're hurt and they're trying to get the flag thrown, and they barely even feel it, but the flag gets thrown. And I think we've gone 180 degrees the other way with the whole protection thing, but that's where we are.
As a GM, what do you do when you have a guy like Jaden Daniels or Jackson Dart that is not necessarily, taking care of their body or at-risk behavior? Do you really try to say, hey, you need to not do this? Or is it one part like, I don't want to take away this guy and how much of a competitor he is? That's a high wire act, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It really is. You don't want to take away what makes a kid special, right? But you also want them to be cognitively aware of what it takes to show up every Sunday and play at a high level. So that if it's 4th and goal and we're down 6 and it's the last minute of the game and you're running boot or a scramble, you better get in no matter what, right? But if it's game 4 and it's 1st and 10 and you're scrambling and somebody's coming hard, just get down. Now it's 2nd and 6. We're good. We're good. You don't have to make everybody miss. Get out of bounds. Get down. I think more and more coaches and quarterbacks are on the same page there. Like, that extra yard by dropping your pad level and trying to take on a linebacker, it might impress your teammates once or twice, but then even the teammates are going, hey, we know you're a tough guy. Just, we need you in the huddle the next play.
Get down. One thing about your business career, anything you took from that, successful for almost 2 decades, and before you got into, media and being an analyst, anything you pulled from that, I always say, like, life is a locker room, right? Like, anything about that locker room you were able to take into your career as an analyst and then an NFL executive, something there that people might be surprised about?
Well, I think at a certain point in my commercial real estate career, I was managing a lot of people. And anybody in any profession, anywhere where you're managing people understands that it's not easy. You've got to be cognizant of what's important to the company and the individual. And you're trying to meld that together so that we're all pulling forward in a positive direction. And when I got into broadcasting, it went back to kind of being, I just had to prepare myself to get ready every week, whether it was the draft or a Thursday night football game or a Notre Dame game. I had to prepare me to play at my highest level that Saturday afternoon at 3:30 for a Notre Dame game, right? And that went on for 18 years or so at the NFL Network with the draft. And, I'm working with Rich Eisen and guys I respect, and we're all trying to pull together, but it's a small group of us. And then all of a sudden you become a GM and there's this whole infrastructure in place. And especially with the scouts, because you inherit scouts, you get hired, right after the season ends in January, but your draft season is not till late April. So you're evaluating that whole. And so I know I'm walking into a situation where, quite frankly, I'm coming out of the media. So I'm pretty sure a bunch of the Raider scouts aren't going to be real happy that they got bypassed for the job, right? Now I got a TV guy coming in. Some of the guys that didn't know me, I think were probably very skeptical, and I don't blame them. And the same throughout the league. The guys that knew me understood, and I was on the road for a lot of years scouting a lot of people with a lot of scouts. So a lot of those, but however, you come in there kind of with the recognition of, I got to manage people now. I got to get the most out of these guys. And how do you do it? And to me, that was a challenge because I had been for the last 18 years managing myself. And then you kind of think back to commercial real estate and what's important to the bigger picture, so there are some parallels there. And I agree with you, Pete. I think every decision you make in life, you don't look back. You just chase it hard. And pretty soon you're going to come up to another crossroads and make another decision. Right. And So I'm with you. I'm with you. I think you make decisions and you go chase them.
Draft coverage. It felt like you were almost more of a teacher than an analyst. Is that something you knew would set you apart? Did you recognize that you were doing that? That was one of your gifts?
In all honesty, I'm making a lot of this stuff up as we went because, there was Mel Kiper. Yeah. Right. But Mel kind of showed up on your TV every year right around draft time, and we were doing it at the NFL Network where I literally talked the NFL Network into sending a producer with me to the Senior Bowl because most of the guys there had never even heard of it. And I'm like, I had to beg them to send a producer and a camera with me
for the whole week. Right.
Yeah.
Not just obviously. Yeah.
And when we got there, the first practice, the producer, he was kind of a senior guy. His eyes lit up. He's like, oh my God, there's Parcells. There's Belichick. There's Al Davis. I'm like, I've been trying to tell you guys, the entire league is here. Like we need to be here. And from that grew, okay, Mike's going to do stuff each, during the week. And then we ended up getting the practices. And so we're doing the practices live and that's different. Right. And I did feel like my role a little bit was to teach at that. But why are you doing this drill? What can you take out of that drill as an evaluator? Not just a coach. It's not schematics anymore. It's not about a double team down, pull the guard, run counter. No. It's not schematics. What we're into now is evaluation of personnel. So can you help the guy at home learn what's important for a tackle? Why is knee bend important? Why can if he drops his hips, is that important? What about leverage? What's important for a corner? So to me, and again, being the son of a coach and a math teacher, I always felt like the coaches that separated themselves on the field were the best teachers. They didn't have to scream and yell, but they had to teach concepts and get me to buy in and get every player to buy in and get better. And that's a little bit of what I was trying to do at the NFL Network.
When you talk about being an analyst on TV, can you remember, and this can be positive or if something, everybody misses once in a while, what was your biggest swing as an analyst where you were like, wow, and you're authentic. So you genuinely love somebody, but you thought, you thought something different than everybody else, and it either worked out or didn't.
Yeah, I come on. We all have a lot of misses. I had a bunch. I mean, Maurice Jones-Drew, to this day, when he sees me, he just starts laughing. LaShawn McCoy. I mean, both those guys, they just giggle when they see me. And who was it? Was I think Shady. I got to know him pretty well down the road, and I'd walk into a room and he'd be like, you know, at a soup wherever, and he would name the 4 running backs that I had rated ahead of him every time I saw him. And the funniest things happened when I was doing Thursday night games. So it's 2 NFL teams, and you have the mandatory production meetings, you know, a day or two before the game. And so inevitably, Brad Nessler, who I did the games with, he and I'd be sitting there, and in walks somebody that I evaluated when he was in college. And it was either a good experience or a bad experience. And what I realized, and what really not sobered me up, but made me think it through more deeply, is I'm trying to get the evaluation right, and I'm trying to be careful and make it, because that I was a 10th round draft pick. You know, I was a late pick. I felt like I was better than that. I wanted, you know, so I knew it was important, but I had no idea, Pete, how important it was to these guys at a very emotional time in their lives, that LaShawn McCoy would remember the running backs I had graded ahead of him prior to the draft and give me abuse about it. It just made me realize whether it was really good or really bad, or that every one of these guys, it mattered. And I really had to be cognizant of my duty and obligation to all of them.
It's almost like you could have told Shady McCoy, hey, if I knew you were going to be this competitive and this pissed, I probably would have graded you higher.
Yeah, dude.
That's a good sign.
I obviously missed the tape. I'm sorry. And it was wrong. And I had a bunch of them. And I mean, the first year we covered the combine, it was just me and Paul Burmeister, just 2 of us, before anybody. And the 2 of us were standing in the old Indianapolis Stadium, like in the first row of the bleachers, and right behind us, the offensive line's working out on the first day, right? And they're all right behind us. You can hear them grunting and moving. And Paul's asking me a question about a certain player who had everybody thought was a 1st round pick, and I had a 3rd round grade on him. And I kind of went through I was like, well, this is what I see, and I don't think he's going to go as high as people think, and you hear in the background, you're like, hear this, F you, Mayock, you suck, you know. The kids right behind me heard everything I said and just ripped me. I mean, it was the first year we did the big blow up of the combine, and the first day was traditionally always the offensive line. And my dad was an offensive line coach at University of Pennsylvania when I was a kid. So we get done the first day. It's like 8 hours. I run back, call my dad to get in the hotel. I call him. I'm like, Dad, what'd you think? He said, son, after like 5 minutes of that offensive line mirror drill, I had to turn that garbage off. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, if my father, who was an O-line coach, isn't going to watch the combine, who will?
Exactly.
And surprisingly, people love the combine.
Yeah.
They just loved it. But anyway.
Well, you guys did a hell of a job with the coverage, and Eisen embraces it. And you know, you were dynamic. That was a good thing you guys started there. And then you end up, you know, you get hired by the Raiders, which is a compliment to your work, obviously, on the air and your analysis and evaluation. And you draft Max Crosby, which is that I got to say, a feather in the cap. What about Max Crosby did you like? And to make it a 2-pronged question, did you ever think he would be this good?
So it's an intriguing conversation, because in the first round, 4th pick, we took Cleve Farrell that plays the same position, and that was a mistake on me. I mean, that's my first draft pick, and I kind of erred on the side of I want a tough guy that's going to come in and help us change a culture, going to compete. And I was wrong on the talent the ceiling. I wanted a higher floor. That's all I cared about. I wanted Clee to be kind of a leader, and and I messed up on that. That was all me. But we get in the fourth round and pick 106, and I can remember that because Max has that tattooed on his body. But Coach Gruden and I had talked about him. We had picked 106 and 108, and I told Coach, I'm going to trade 108. Let's move down, pick up some extra picks, but let's keep 106. Okay, that was like the third or fourth pick in the fourth round. Let's not trade that away. There's a few guys right in there that we really like, and we got on the Crosby conversation. Coach loved him. I loved him. The big issue was the entire league knew about his addiction.
Yeah,
both alcohol and drugs.
Which, for folks who don't know, the guy's been sober for years now. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I can talk about it. And it's a good story, Pete.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was a little bit, you put the tape on, and it was just like at Eastern Michigan, the effort was just the same. Like everywhere you look, Max Crosby was flying around the field. He could bend like Gumby, like rare ability to bend and get under blocks and create leverage. And one of the concerns was how big could he get? What did his frame, was it going to allow him to grow? And he has. He's like a 270-pound defensive end now. He's growing into that massive frame. But the addiction was an issue, obviously. And so we took him. His rookie year, he came in second for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think it was behind Nick Bosa. And the entire year, he was still playing pretty hard off the field. And his girlfriend, Rachel, who's now his wife, basically said, I'm out. I'm leaving. And she packed up and moved back to Florida. And that sobered him up. And she said, if you want to do something here, you got to go in a facility, which we as the Raiders backed him 100%, Coach Gruden and I. But Max and Rachel did all the work. And it's a great story now. It's a wonderful story. And the guy's on the cusp, if he can stay healthy, of a Hall of Fame career.
I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah.
He's a great story.
Yeah, it is. And I appreciate you being so transparent and sharing that with us. I'm sober 14 years. So I love a guy like Max. It's very cool to see him being public.
I think that, and he's so public about it.
Yeah.
And now he's an addictive personality. Right.
Yeah.
So now what he is he throws everything into being a great husband and father and football player.
Yeah.
And but you see, he's still showing up at the UCF fights and hanging out with this guy.
Yeah.
He's amazing. And he's sober and happy. And we were at his wedding 2 years ago. And it was just, I was so happy for him. It was wonderful.
That's amazing. Yeah. And that's what they say, if you get sober and you do the things you need to do, there's no place you can't go, whether it's a concert, UFC or UCF. Right. All right. So I got one or two more questions for you about the Raiders. The Antonio Brown situation. What did you learn about yourself, about life, from that move? Because everybody in the world would have pulled the trigger on it. And when you get them, it's like, wow, this is interesting.
I'm not sure everybody would have pulled the trigger. And there were some hesitations there because basically I was coming into a situation with a team that was 4-12 the year before. It was old and slow, and we needed to get young. We needed a good moral compass in the locker room, a bunch of them, so we kind of needed to radically change athletically and every other way. Okay. And we knew we had a lot of picks in that draft. And so that was a little bit of that trade. The Steelers wanted a first round pick. And I told Kevin Colbert, he called me 3 or 4 times. I told him no interest. And they couldn't move. They were trying to move him for a reason, right? Because Mike Tomlin's as good as anybody at managing players. So all of a sudden, they're trying to move a guy that's still in the prime of his career. It's a Hall of Fame talent. And B, they're not getting a first-round pick from anybody. So there's some red flags out there. We gave a 3 and a 5. And quite frankly, from the moment he got there, he wouldn't wear any of our helmets.
I remember that.
He wanted us to paint his Pittsburgh Steeler helmet Oakland Raider colors, and we were just like, you can't do that.
Yeah,
like there's 30 some approved helmets. You got to pick one. For a lot of reasons, we can't paint your old helmet. He wouldn't wear any of those. He showed up at training camp in a hot air balloon with burned feet from a cryogenic chamber in Paris, France, and wouldn't wear any helmets. I mean, that was the beginning of training camp. So
great time to have a HBO, an NFL
oh my
film
God.
chronicling everything, right? It's like, oh man.
I was so against it, and the league didn't really care. And, I'm a rookie GM, and, the last thing I want there is hard knocks. Hard knocks. But anyway, it was the only thing that exonerated at the end was when we cut him. We were able to, and one of the reasons he came after me was we suspended all his guarantees, which we had every right to do based on him leaving training camp and everything he did. So he came after me on the practice field, and a couple of days later, he did some dumb things in social media with the owner and Gruden, and finally we cut him. And so it cost us a 3 and a 5, and I think it probably taught a bunch of valuable lessons throughout our organization.
The organization, by the way, a bunch of stuff went on that you had no control of, but the product was good. You guys got better, dude. Like leaving that team under the circumstances you did, but like it was definitely better than when you found it. Do you ever think about getting back in?
Well, like I just said, we inherited a 4-win team, and 3 years later, we won 10 games. We went to Cincinnati for a playoff game, and they went to the Super Bowl that year.
You lost by this much.
We had the ball on the 9-yard line with 4 shots to get it in with under a minute left and win a game, and we couldn't get it done. And they went on to the Super Bowl. So I don't think we were a Super Bowl caliber team at that point. I'm not foolish, but we had moved the talent level, and we had really moved the culture, and we're moving it all in the right direction. And Coach Gruden had gotten fired, or however you want to call that, earlier in the year. Rich Bisaccia came in, did a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
It's horrible that he's not a head coach in that league. But he and I both felt like we were on the verge of something had we just stayed with the program. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I think the things that owners do that drive me crazy more than anything is dysfunctional franchises change GMs and coaches every other year.
Yeah.
You got no shot.
And cities and quarterbacks. That doesn't help either.
Right. It's just, I thought Coach Gruden got the most out of Derek Carr than anybody has. I thought John did great job. John's a great offensive coordinator. So we had this thing going pretty well, and I can't say why Mark Davis did or didn't do what he said, but at the end of the day, they've changed. I don't know. They've had 3 or 4 GMs and head coaches, and now they're one of the worst teams in the league. And they're instead of if they had kept Rich Bisaccia, they'd be fighting for division championships, and instead, right now, they're fighting for the first overall pick in the draft.
And relevance, which is hard to say for the Raiders. I mean, they have become, their fan base is apathetic. It's a bummer. I've just always, because I'm old school NFL films guy, always have a spot in my heart for the Raiders. But whatever. All right. So last question for you. You mentioned all that time with Notre Dame, just a college football playoff thread. Were you surprised to see them not get in, as well as the school and the university? And were you surprised to see kind of, hey, we're not playing in the bowl, all that stuff?
I was surprised they didn't get in. B, I probably was surprised they decided not to play in the bowl. And I've mixed emotions on that one. I understand what Kansas State said no, and somebody else in the Big 12 said no,
Yeah.
and they both got fined.
Yeah.
Because the bowl systems depend on these
Iowa
conferences.
State. Yeah.
To supply teams. But you know what, Pete, we're living in a new world in college football. Everything's new. The stuff that I believed in 5 years ago, transfer kid, you better watch out for transfer kids. Well, now everybody transfers.
Yeah.
And now the whole bowl system is starting to fall apart, not necessarily because of the playoffs, but because of the portal. You lose 25 kids to a portal, and who are you playing?
Yeah.
I mean, who's left to play in the bowl game?
Yeah.
It's a different world right now. I try not to judge too much the older I get, because some of this I don't understand.
Well, Mike, I'm a huge fan of yours. Thanks a lot for spending the time today. Really appreciate it. Merry Christmas, the whole deal. Happy holidays. I'll tell your buddy Ted Peters you said what's up. He's right down the block here, I'm sure. A Haverford school guy.
Yeah, please tell Ted I said hi, and we missed the 610, and happy you're getting the chance to enjoy it.
All right, man. Thanks, Mike. Take care.
My pleasure, Pete.